Hey everyone, welcome back. Ready for another deep dive. Today we're tackling something that I think we all struggle with, especially in our digital world, focus, and how to get more of it.
It's such a valuable skill, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. We're diving into this awesome YouTube video. It's a summary of Chris Bailey's book, Super Focus, and it's from a channel called Coffee and Book.
Oh, I've seen their videos. They always break down these complex topics so well.
Right. So the big question here is, how can we reclaim our time and attention when it feels like we're constantly bombarded with distractions?
It's a real challenge. I mean, think about it. How often are we actually fully present in what we're doing?
Oh, good point. It's like we're on autopilot half the time.
The video calls it daily routine mode.
Yeah,
And it's so relatable, like brushing your teeth, scrolling through our phones. We go through the motions without really being there.
totally. But the thing is, this autopilot mode not only affects our productivity, but also our happiness.
Absolutely. When we're not fully present, we miss out on the richness of life. The video breaks down our daily tasks into 4 categories, which can help us see where our focus is really going. So we've got necessary, unnecessary, distracting, and then the ones we all want more of. Purposeful.
Okay, let's break those down a bit. Necessary tasks. Those are the non-negotiables.
Right, like those meetings you can't skip or reports you have to file. Not always the most exciting, but they're essential.
Then we have those unnecessary tasks, the ones that trick us into thinking we're being productive when we're really just procrastinating.
Oh, I know those all too well. Like when you suddenly decide to reorganize your desk instead of tackling that big project.
Guilty is charged. And of course, let's not forget the distracting tasks. The time sucks that we do for fun, but don't actually move us toward our goals.
Social media, binge-watching shows,
Yeah.
those are the big ones. They can easily take over if we let them.
Oh yeah, I've lost many hours to those. But then there are those purposeful tasks, the ones that light us up and actually move us forward.
The things that feel both enjoyable and productive. These will be different for everyone. For some, it's writing. For others, it's designing or building something, maybe even gardening. It's about finding what truly resonates with you and makes you feel fulfilled.
So how do we use these categories to analyze our own day? Like right now, think about your typical workday. Where's your focus usually going?
It's a great question to ask ourselves. Which tasks are truly purposeful and which ones are just taking up space? And this leads us to the concept of hyperfocus, which the video emphasizes as being key to getting those exceptional results.
So we're not just talking about working hard, but tapping into this state of deep, undistracted concentration.
It's like that flow state where you're so absorbed in what you're doing that time just melts away. The video gives this great example of an artist named Polly who enters this state while she's painting.
I love that. Have you ever experienced that where you were so engaged in something that you lost all track of time?
Oh, absolutely. And the video actually breaks down entering hyperfocus into 4 stages.
Hmm.
It starts with choosing that one essential task and setting a clear intention for what you want to achieve. Then it's all about eliminating those distractions, and that means both external and internal.
So turning off those notifications, putting our phones away, and even quieting those mental to-do lists that pop up.
Exactly, creating that mental space to really dive in. Then the 3rd stage is setting a time limit.
Oh, that's interesting. Why set a time limit if we're trying to achieve this state of deep focus?
Because we're not robots. Even our focus has limits. It's important to be realistic about how long we can sustain that level of concentration.
That makes sense. And the final stage.
This one might surprise you, being aware of when your mind wanders. The video points out that our minds wander for a significant portion of our waking hours,
How much are we talking?
about 7%.
Wow. I knew it happened, but I didn't realize it was that much.
It's a lot of time spent not fully present. It's like that classic example of starting with emails and then suddenly finding yourself watching cat videos. We've all been there.
Definitely. So how can we become more aware of those mind-wandering moments?
It's all about developing that inner observer, noticing when your attention drifts without judging yourself, and then gently guiding your focus back to the task at hand.
So it's like building a muscle. The more we practice bringing our attention back, the stronger our focus becomes.
Exactly. And that actually connects to another point the video makes, the surprising role of meditation in improving focus.
Okay, meditation for productivity. That sounds a bit counterintuitive.
I know, right? But the video demystifies meditation, explaining that it's not about emptying your mind, but about strengthening your ability to focus on a single point.
So whether it's our breath in meditation or the task we're working on, it's all about training that same mental muscle.
Precisely. And just like any muscle, it needs the right kind of challenge to grow.
Which brings us to the practical challenges of bringing hypofocus into our real messy lives.
Exactly. I mean, things rarely go perfectly according to plan.
So how do we make it work? Does the video offer any solutions?
It suggests that tackling those challenging and engaging tasks actually makes it easier to achieve hyperfocus compared to those routine, mundane ones.
So it's not just about minimizing distractions, but also about choosing the right work to focus on work that excites us, that challenges us.
Exactly. And that's where meditation can really come in handy. It helps us build that mental resilience we need to tackle those challenging tasks and stay focused even when things get tough.
Okay, so focus is key, but what about rest? The video also emphasizes the importance of recharging, right?
It's crucial. We can't expect our focus to be at its best if we're constantly running on empty.
I totally get that. But sometimes it feels like taking breaks will just slow us down, especially when we're on a deadline.
I understand that feeling. But the video challenges that notion. It argues that, like physical muscles, our focus muscle retains its strength even after rest. In fact, taking breaks can actually boost our overall focus and productivity in the long run.
So it's about working smarter, not harder. And I imagine there are signs that tell us when we need a break, right? Like, how do we know when our focus muscle is getting tired?
The video points out some pretty clear indicators. Increased distractibility, lack of motivation, taking longer to complete tasks than usual.
Oh yeah, those are all too familiar.
Those are signs that our focus is waning and it's time for a break. And remember, breaks don't have to be long to be effective.
Right, even a short break can make a difference.
Even just 5 minutes to step away from our screens and get some fresh air can do wonders for our focus. And the video highlights a pretty impressive statistic. Getting enough sleep can improve our concentration by a whopping 58%.
Wow, 58%. I knew sleep was important, but I didn't realize it had such a significant impact on focus. So is there an ideal break schedule, or does it depend on the person?
That's a great question. And the video actually addresses that. It suggests that break frequency and duration should be personalized.
So one size doesn't fit all.
Right. The video uses these examples of Sophia and Grace to illustrate how different personalities might need different break schedules. An introvert, for example, might need more frequent breaks to recharge from social interactions, while an extrovert might be able to go for longer stretches without needing a break.
It's all about tuning into our individual needs and figuring out what works best for us. But does the video offer any specific recommendations for break timing?
It suggests taking breaks every 90 minutes or 15 minutes per hour.
Why the 90-minute interval?
The video explains that our mental energy naturally cycles in 90-minute intervals, and we tend to experience a dip in energy and focus after each cycle.
So by taking a break at that point, we're actually working with our natural rhythms instead of fighting against them.
Exactly. It's about working smarter, not harder.
I'm really starting to rethink my approach to work and breaks now.
It's all about finding that balance between focus and rest.
Well, we've covered a lot in this first part of our deep dive. We explored those 4 categories of tasks: necessary, unnecessary, distracting, and of course, the purposeful ones.
And we dug into hyperfocus, those 4 stages for entering that flow state, and the surprising link between meditation and productivity.
Not to mention the importance of recharging our mental batteries through sleep, strategic breaks, and even meditation. It's not just about working harder, it's about working smarter and taking care of our mental resources.
Exactly. It's all about finding that sweet spot between focus and rest, between pushing ourselves and knowing when to step back and recharge. Welcome back. Ready to put those hyperfocus strategies into practice?
Definitely feeling more mindful of where my attention goes thanks to those task categories. But let's be real, the real world, it's full of distractions.
It is.
How do we actually achieve hyperfocus? When we have emails pinging, phones buzzing, and people like constantly vying for our attention.
Right. Well, the good news is the video actually offers some very practical tips for minimizing distractions and setting ourselves up for success. It's not about becoming a hermit or anything.
Okay, so I don't need to build a soundproof bunker in my basement.
No, not at all. It's really just about creating an environment that supports focus. So think about your workspace, right? Are there things around you that are constantly pulling your attention away?
Oh, for sure. Clutter, my phone, notifications, it's a constant battle.
Right. And it's not just physical clutter either, it's digital clutter too.
Yeah.
So close those extra tabs, silence those notifications, put your phone on Do Not Disturb. anything that can take your attention away from the task at hand.
Creating a mental sanctuary. I like that. The video also talks about time management too, right? Like how to be more intentional with how we spend our time.
Yes, absolutely. It's about recognizing that we all have the same 24 hours, but how we choose to spend that time, that's what really makes the difference. There's this really interesting example in the video. We might say, oh, I don't have time for that. Like, oh, I can't meet colleagues for dinner. But then we'll spend hours scrolling through social media.
Ooh, that's a good point.
Right. It's about being honest with ourselves about where our time is actually going.
Ouch, yeah. It's about making conscious choices about how we spend our time.
Exactly. Not letting it slip away on autopilot. The video encourages us to really take a look at our daily routines and identify those time wasters that we can either minimize or even eliminate altogether. Like, think about mindless scrolling sessions, constantly checking email, or those tasks that we could easily delegate to someone else. What are some of your biggest time wasters?
Oh, definitely social media. I can get sucked into those rabbit holes for way too long. And definitely email, too. I feel like I'm constantly checking it throughout the day.
Those are definitely common ones. But by becoming aware of these habits, we can start to reclaim that control over our time and attention. It's a pretty powerful shift.
Okay, I'm on board with the distraction-free environment and time management, but I gotta be honest, I'm still not quite sure about this whole meditation thing. It just doesn't seem very productive.
I get it. It can seem a bit counterintuitive, right? But
Hmm.
remember, at its core, meditation is about training our minds to focus. It's like a mental workout for your attention span.
So it's not about emptying our minds, it's about strengthening our ability to focus.
Exactly. Whether that's on our breath or on the task at hand. And the more we practice, the easier it becomes to stay present, to resist those distractions.
Okay, I can see how that could be helpful. But what about those times when, like, we inevitably do get distracted? Like, our mind just wanders off, even when we're trying to hyper-focus. How do we deal with that?
The video really emphasizes self-awareness here. It's about noticing those moments of mind wandering without judgment and then gently guiding our attention back to the task. It's like hitting the reset button on your focus.
So we notice we've drifted off, and we make that conscious choice to bring our focus back.
Right. And just like any skill, the more we practice it, the better we become at it, building that mental muscle, so to speak.
Speaking of muscles, what about recharging? We talked about breaks being important, but I still feel, I don't know, kind of guilty stepping away from work, especially when I'm, on a deadline.
Yeah, it's a real struggle, especially in today's always-on culture. But remember, rest is not the enemy of productivity. It's actually essential for maintaining focus and energy in the long run.
Okay, so how do we know when to actually take a break? Like, are there signs that our focus muscle needs a timeout?
Oh, definitely. The video outlines a few key indicators,
Yeah.
things like increased distractibility, feeling unmotivated, or taking longer to complete tasks than usual. These are all signals that we need to step away and recharge.
So we need to pay attention to those cues from our mind and body.
Yes. And remember, those breaks don't have to be long to be effective. Think back to that 90-minute cycle we discussed. It's about working with those natural dips in energy, not against them.
Right. And the video also talked about like personalizing break schedules, like with those examples of Sophia and Grace. Some people just need more frequent breaks than others, depending on, well, their personality, their energy levels, even the task at hand.
It's all about figuring out what works best for you, right?
Hmm.
There's no one-size-fits-all approach. So let's say we've embraced the power of breaks. What are some effective ways to actually recharge our mental batteries?
Yeah. Does it have to be like all meditation retreats and yoga classes?
Not at all. Those could be great options, of course. But the video really emphasizes the importance of finding activities that you genuinely enjoy, things that help you feel refreshed, energized. It could be anything from taking a walk in nature, listening to music, reading a book, spending time with loved ones, or even pursuing a hobby.
So it's about like giving our minds a break from that constant stimulation of work and technology and just allowing ourselves to unwind and recharge in a way that feels good.
Exactly. And even short breaks can be incredibly beneficial. Remember, it's not always about quantity, it's about quality.
Even just a 5-minute break to step outside, get some fresh air, that can make a world of difference.
Absolutely. It's about giving our minds that chance to reset so we can come back to our work with renewed focus and energy.
This is all so helpful. I'm really starting to understand this whole interplay between focus and rest, but I gotta admit, I'm still a bit intimidated by this whole hyperfocus thing. It sounds great in theory, But can we really train ourselves to reach that level of concentration?
Absolutely. Remember, focus, it's like any other skill. It takes practice. The more we intentionally cultivate our ability to concentrate, the stronger it becomes.
So it's not about like being born with some superpower. It's something that we can develop over time.
Exactly. And the video, it encourages us to start small. Don't try to force a marathon hyper-focus session right away. Begin with shorter, defined periods of focused work, maybe 10 to 15 minutes, even up to 45 minutes, and gradually increase the duration as your focus strengthens.
So we build that mental stamina over time, just like we would with physical exercise.
Precisely. It's a much more sustainable approach.
That makes a lot of sense. Well, I feel like I'm finally starting to grasp this connection between focus and rest. I'm ready to tackle the next part of this deep dive and, learn how to make hyperfocus a sustainable habit.
That's great. So let's move on to that final part of our exploration where we'll really dive into those strategies for making hyperfocus a consistent part of your daily life and, of course, maximizing your productivity.
Welcome back to our deep dive. So we've learned about those sneaky distractions, how to take those strategic breaks, and even like the surprising connection between meditation and getting things done.
Exactly.
But now let's talk about making this whole hyperfocus thing a habit, something we can actually, integrate into our daily lives.
Right. Because it's one thing to experience those bursts of intense focus, but how do we actually make it stick?
Yeah, exactly. How do we make hyperfocus a consistent practice, not just a one-time thing?
Well, the video really emphasizes that consistency is key. And it offers this fascinating insight. The first few seconds of entering that hyperfocus mode are the most crucial,
Oh, interesting.
but they're also like the most vulnerable to distraction.
It's like that initial inertia, that we have to overcome. Once we're like rolling, it's
like that.
easier to stay focused. But those first few moments can really make or break the whole thing.
Exactly. So the video, it outlines 4 strategies to combat those initial distractions and set ourselves up for success.
Okay. I'm all ears. What's the first one?
Start small. Don't try to force yourself into a marathon hyperfocus session right off the bat. Instead, begin with, short defined periods of focused work, maybe 10 to 15 minutes, even up to 45 minutes, and gradually increase the duration as your focus strengthens.
So it's like we're building up our mental stamina, kind of like we would with physical exercise.
Exactly. You start with those manageable reps and gradually increase the intensity over time.
I like that analogy.
It's a much more sustainable approach.
For sure. What about strategy number 2?
The video highlights the importance of time management, being really intentional about how we allocate our time and energy. It's not about cramming more into our schedules.
Right.
It's about making those conscious choices about how we spend those precious hours we have.
So prioritizing those tasks that truly matter and minimizing those time wasters that drain our energy and focus.
Right. What we were talking about earlier, those task categories.
Exactly.
It's about taking control of our time.
Instead of letting it control us. Okay, what's the third tip for making hyperfocus a habit?
Keep practicing. Just like with any skill, the more we intentionally engage in hyperfocus, the better we become at it.
Right.
It's like we're training our brains to stay present, to resist those distractions that are constantly trying to pull us away.
So building that mental muscle through repetition and consistency.
Exactly. And the more we practice, the easier it becomes to access that state of deep focus.
Makes sense. So what's the final strategy?
The video emphasizes the importance of preparing for your next hyperfocus session by taking adequate rest.
Okay.
Remember how we talked about how crucial rest is for recharging our mental energy?
Yeah, it's not about pushing ourselves to the point of exhaustion.
Right.
It's about strategically balancing that focus with rest.
Precisely. So after a period of, intense focus, make sure to give yourself a break.
Yeah.
You need to recharge before diving back in.
So those 4 strategies, they all sound really great for laying that solid foundation for hyperfocus. But what about those unexpected distractions? The ones that just kind of pop up, like urgent emails, phone calls, things that interrupt our flow.
Those are definitely inevitable.
Yeah.
The key is to have a plan in place for how you're going to deal with them. And the video suggests setting boundaries.
So letting people know, hey, I'm in focus mode right now.
Exactly. Trying to minimize those interruptions as much as possible. And if you absolutely have to address something urgent, try to do it quickly and efficiently so you can get back to your hyperfocus section as soon as you can.
Makes sense. And that's like for those external distractions, right? But what about the internal ones?
Oh, yeah.
The worries, the anxieties, that to-do list that just keeps popping into our heads. How do we deal with like that internal chatter?
Ah, yes. The
Yeah.
internal chatter. That can be a major challenge to hyperfocus. The video actually suggests a few strategies for managing those internal
Good.
distractions, including mindfulness meditation.
So it's not just about focusing on a single point, right? It's also about becoming aware of those thoughts and emotions that arise without getting totally carried away by them.
Precisely. It's about observing those internal distractions without judgment and then gently redirecting your attention back to the task at hand.
I'm really starting to see how mindfulness can be so helpful for both those internal and external distractions.
Right.
It's like creating that mental space where we can observe those distractions without letting them, completely derail our focus.
Exactly. And the more we practice mindfulness, the better we become at managing those internal distractions and, of course, maintaining our focus.
This has been like so insightful. I feel like I'm actually equipped with like the tools and strategies to not only achieve hyperfocus, but also, make it a sustainable part of my life.
That's wonderful. And remember, the journey to mastering hyperfocus, it's ongoing. It's about continuous learning, experimentation, and just finding what works best for you.
Right. It's not about being perfect. It's about making progress and embracing those inevitable setbacks as opportunities to learn and grow.
Absolutely. But the rewards are definitely worth the effort. Increased productivity, deeper engagement with our work, and that greater sense of fulfillment.
Well said. And as we wrap up this deep dive into the world of hyperfocus, I want to leave you with this thought-provoking question inspired by the video. The video actually suggests that superfocus is a gift that we can give ourselves. So, what one small change could you make this week to cultivate that gift in your own life?
It's a powerful question, right? It doesn't have to be a huge change, just one small intentional step toward reclaiming your focus and really unlocking your potential.
Exactly. And remember, we're all in this together. So share your insights, your struggles, your triumphs, everything. We'd love to
Okay.
hear how you're putting these hyper-focused strategies into action.
Until next time, stay curious, stay focused, and keep diving deep.